All right, I wanted to shoot a series of videos, and I don't know how long it'll take me to get them all done. And there's a billion things to talk about clubs. So clubs in the game of Golf Clash, and some of the things that have changed since the game first came out is we now have access to multiple bags depending on your clan's ranking. So when the game first came out, we only had one bag. So you get on a hole, and you're like, man, I wish I had that club. Well, you're sunk. You only have one bag. Now we at least have multiple bags, so you can set up bags for, I got a distance bag, I've got an accurate bag, I've got another distance bag, but with the big topper adds some functionality that you don't get with your extra mile. And I have a accurate bag with a long wood. Sometimes you're laying up, but that second shot is the shot that really requires some distance. And so you can have several bags set up depending on your clan ranking. That's why it's important to be in a clan that's higher up on the scale so that you can have access to multiple bags. But let's start the discussion off with drivers. So you start the game off and you get a rocket. And when you get to tour 2, your goal is to get this extra mile. So if we go to Golf Clash Notebook and we look at the driver section, you start off with that rocket, which is obviously better than a basic. I don't even know if they show the basic ones in here. I don't think they do. But it's definitely better than your beginning driver. So now you've got that 190 distance. You've got 50 accuracy, which is 2 miles per hour per ring. You have no topspin, no backspin, very limited curl, and very limited ball guide. So the ball guide goes, here's the first bounce, that's 1. And then there's the second bounce, that's 2. So that's what you're getting with this 2.0. That's why when you're looking at like a 2.4 doesn't do you a whole lot of good, because it's not what you want. Is you're wanting, whenever you're doing an upgrade and you're looking at ball guide, you're looking at the downward spiral. What's up, Daisy girl? So, when you're looking at a ball guide feature at 2.5 right here, anything that's going on the downward, you can get a better read on where it's going to go. So when you get to this 3.1, that's great, because now you've got 1 bounce, 2 bounces, 3 bounces, and then you're just up. So it's giving you a little bit better look on your ball guide. So when you first start the game, all your clubs are beginner clubs, so you're in big trouble. You've got to play in the fairway. So you finally get the very first chest you open when you get on a Tour 1, you're going to get this rocket. And you're going to get that 190 yards, and that's going to be a big deal to your game. But everything's so bad that you have to play in the fairway. Everything needs to be layup shots. And then very quickly you get into Tour 2, and you pick up an extra mile, and you go from 190 to 220. So you got that huge increase in yardage. But you go from 2 per ring in accuracy to 3 per ring in accuracy. And with a 0 accuracy, that's 3 miles per hour per ring. And it's a very inaccurate club, but it hits big. So it's kind of like real golf. The average real golfer can drive somewhere in the 200-yard range, a little bit less, a little bit more, but like on average, probably somewhere around 200 yards. Well, if you're looking at par 4s in the game, par 4s are going to run from 290 to 420, sometimes bigger if you're playing on a course that's set up, you're playing from the gold tees, or you're playing. And so you're looking at least 2 shots to get on a par 4. And that's the more you can drive. So having a driver that can hit 220 yards is huge. That's why people go out and buy these big Berthas and these big oversized head clubs, because they're trying to get more distance off the tee, because their field game, they don't like taking 180-yard shots from the field or 170-yard shots from the field. They want to try and get it so that they can get down into their smaller clubs trying to drive towards the green. So it's a big advantage getting that extra mile really early on in the game, but it's just like anybody who plays in real golf. You can go out and buy that big Bertha to try and supplement your game. The problem is is that if you miss a shot with a driver like the Extra Mile, you can be in really big trouble. Really big trouble. So when you start, you're looking at two clubs. You know, if you've got access to two bags, you're going to have an accurate bag and a distance bag. And your rocket, even though it's 2 per ring, that's going to be your accurate club, your layup club, and your Extra Mile is going to be your club where you're hitting those holes where you can go the distance. The problem is that when people are playing the game, let me see if I can get to, and I was in the right one to begin with. Let's take Sakura Hills. This is a Tour 3 hole course. So let's pick a really good hole here as an example. This hole right here. You come on this hole with your Extra Mile, and it's a very difficult hole to get around the curve, and your Extra Mile doesn't have a lot of curl, and it's very easy because of the narrowness of the fairway in here, and with the distance of the Extra Mile, it's really easy to either end up back over in here, or you're trying to curl it around and you're pinching yourself and you clip the rough right here, or you end up in the rough right here, when what you should be doing on a hole like this is laying it up. So if you have access to multiple bags and you've got 2 different drivers, a rocket and an Extra Mile, you have to look at the hole and go, is this a hole where I'm trying to drive forward to get as much distance as I can because the pin's way out here? Or is this a hole where I need to put myself in a spot so that I can set myself up to get onto the green? And this hole right here is definitely a hole where you're going to set yourself up, especially if you've got lower developed clubs. You want to set yourself up in a spot so that you can get onto the green. So this is going to be a hole that I want to bring out my accurate bag. I don't want to come out here with a club that hits 3 miles per hour per ring. I want to come out here with a club that's going to be accurate and I can get into just lay it up into the fairway. And so people get stuck on, they finally get that Extra Mile and then they're like, okay, that's the game changer. Everything's going to be all right now. You still want to switch between those clubs. So this hole right here with an Extra Mile, you've got a very narrow area to try and get through here with an Extra Mile if you were using a basic or a Marlin ball, trying to bring it around out into this area here so that you can try and go for the green. So the problem is that if your other clubs, your wood and your other clubs are lower developed, they're not going to help you that much out into this area. So people are trying to get as much distance as they can, so they'll bring out their Extra Mile, which is very inaccurate, and it's very easy to end up in these trees or end up in this rough, or dribbling through this rough and ending up short out here on the green, on the fairway. So when you're on these types of holes, it's looking at, hey, where can my rocket put me? Like my rocket can get me out here, but 50% of the time when I use my Extra Mile, I'm in this kind of trouble. And this kind of trouble right here means that you just lost the hole. Versus, hey, every time I can get out here with my rocket and then I have to figure out this next shot. So it may be a higher percentage deal to bring out your rocket so that you've got that higher percentage, that lower, more accurate club trying to do that layup shot. Now, as you go through and you get into Tour 3, you're going to get a Big Topper. And a Big Topper is a specialty club. I play quite a bit with my Big Topper. I go out and play with it just because I want to get used to its functionality. So with an Extra Mile, you've got the distance. We go back to Golf Clash Notebook. So with Extra Mile, you have the distance, but when you look at a Big Topper, just look at a level 1 Extra Mile, 220. And by the time you get to Tour 3, you're probably looking more towards maybe a level 3 Extra Mile, possibly a level 4. So you're in the 224 to 226 range. And you finally get that Big Topper and you're like, hey, it's only 205. And at the same time, you've got that rocket that you've now probably got somewhere up into the level 3, level 4, level 5 range. So you go, okay, 198 versus 205. That's not a big difference. And now we're back to a 0 accuracy club. So we're back to 3 per ring. The one thing on a Big Topper that changes the game for a Big Topper is this 100% topspin. So I mean, it's not an actual one for one, but just to kind of, you know, for easy math, you have a 205 yard club and you put on 100% topspin. That's 305 yards. It doesn't quite work out that way, but it's close enough that we can look at it that way. So we have a club here that now can hit 305 yards versus our extra mile, which may be at level 3 now, maybe level 4, which hits 224 plus 30 topspin, which hits 254 yards. So the big topper, in most cases, if you're on one of those holes that hits straight forward, or you're just trying to come out towards the pin and it's a straightforward shot, and distance, the more distance you get, the better, the big topper may be the one. But if you've got a trap here, and you know and the big topper's red line is back in here, whereas with your extra mile you can push up towards that trap and you can pick up this distance, you know, the extra mile may be the club to bring. So once you get a big topper, if you're in a clan that's got 3 bags, you know, bringing that big topper out, now you have 3 choices for clubs. You've got an accurate club, you've got a distance club, and you got a club that, depending on the hole, may be a club that can get you more distance. There's a lot of holes in this game that, for instance, let's say you bring out a bigger ball, or even if you're just using a marlin ball, you can hit a marlin with an extra mile going straight forward with max topspin versus a big topper with a marlin with max topspin, and you're going to gain more distance with the big topper. So there are certain holes that big topper is going to help you. And if you're at the beginning of the game, you know, you're still up here in the 7 accuracy, there's not a big difference in accuracy between 7 and 0. We're talking about a 3 mile per hour per ring versus a 2.9 or a 2.8, or excuse me, yeah, it'd be a 2.9, 2.8, somewhere in that neighborhood. So there's not a lot of big difference here as far as accuracy goes. So once you get a big topper, it's not a bad idea to have, you could have 3 bags set up, because there are some holes that the big topper is gonna be an okay club, even though its accuracy blows. Now when you get to Tour 4, this is where your clubs are going to start to change, because your rocket, by the time you get to Tour 4, you know, you're probably going to have your rocket somewhere in the level 5 range. And so you're looking at these stats right here. 198 yards, 76% accurate, 18 topspin, 26 backspin, 30 curl, 3.1 ball guide. So you're starting to pick up some ball guide at level 5. This is where this club is going to start helping you a little bit more because of that ball guide. And at 76 accuracy, it's basically 1.5 per ring. So it's a pretty accurate club. And it's got some fairly good distance. The topspin and the backspin aren't as helpful as you'd like them to be, and it's starting to pick up a little bit of curl now, so you can start to work some of these shots. But when you get the quarterback, and especially when you get the quarterback to level 3, which will be very quick because it's a common card. It's a common club, so you're going to get lots of cards for this. And it does not take very long for you to get to level 3 once you start playing Tour 4. Now you're at 203. Even when you first get it, other than the topspin backspin, because you've got your rocket up to about level 5, level 4, level 5, so you're starting to get some backspin. Topspin still really low. You got 1826 or 926. We look at a quarterback. We've got 810 versus 926. So when you get it to level 3, I will typically, and in my low level account, that's exactly what I did. I played my rocket until I had enough club cards to get my club to level 3. So you get it, it's level 1. It takes 4 cards to get it to level 2. And it takes 10 cards. So it only takes, is it 4 or 5? I think it might be 4, maybe 5. So it takes like 14, 15 cards, and you can get that club to level 3. And it's a common card, common club. So it's going to get to level 3 pretty quick. Once you can get your quarterback to level 3, I'm going to quit upgrading my rocket. I'm not going to upgrade my rocket anymore. I'm not going to upgrade my rocket until I get to a couple million coins. When I get to a couple million coins, I've played long enough that I can upgrade every single club in my bag for about 1,000,000 coins. And then as I get an upgrade for a club, I can just upgrade it as I go along. And by that point, you're probably going to be able to get your rocket somewhere up into the level 8, maybe level 9 range, because you're going to get a lot of cards for it because it's the level 1 common. And what you're looking for on the rocket as it goes up in level, especially when you get it maxed out, is you're looking for this backspin. This backspin is a huge number, 98. It's giving you that driver that's got backspin, which you're not going to get with a lot of these other ones until you get them to way high levels. But as soon as I can get my QB to level 3, I'm going to change my accurate bag, and my QB is now going to become my accurate club. Now, one of the things you'll notice about these clubs is that they can get quite expensive to start upgrading them. When you get to level 3, it costs you 10,000 just to get it to level 3. And when you go to level 4, 9,000 just for that one upgrade, 13,000, 17,000. When I get to level 3, I'm not really going to worry about upgrading my club until I get to probably level 6. And I think that's exactly what I did in my low level account. I didn't spend the coins to upgrade it to here until I had enough cards to upgrade it to level 6. And the reason is that I'm not getting a huge benefit at levels 4 and 5. And you're going to be so broke at those lower levels that it's not worth spending the 22,000 to upgrade it for those levels. So I'm going to wait until I have enough club cards to upgrade it to level 6. But I'm not going to really play with my rocket anymore. And I'm not going to upgrade. I'm not going to spend any of this cash down here to upgrade it, even though it's very cheap to upgrade. I'm not going to waste my coins. I'd rather keep that 1,000 coins so that I can play Tour 3 and Tour 4 and not spend any of that cash. Now my extra mile, as you get your extra mile, every level you're going to upgrade it. Because at this point in the game, it is going to be a primary club. But most people use the extra mile way more than they really should. There are a ton of holes in this game that what you should be bringing out is your accurate bag, especially when you're lower level, because the other clubs that you have in your bag that complement your driver, your next club, are your best chances when you're in the fairway. And the extra mile is going to put you in the rough and the sand a lot. And you don't have rough wedges and sand wedges that can dig you out of trouble. So in a lot of these holes that are out there, you'd be much better off to come out with an accurate bag, lay it up. Anytime you look at a shot and you go, wow, I'm just laying it up out there, I'm not trying to get every single bit of distance that I can get from that club, you should be thinking about bringing your accurate club, not your extra mile. The extra mile is a great club, and there's all kinds of things you can do with it, especially when you get it up. As it gets more developed and it gets higher up in level, you're going to use this club. No matter what level you're at, you're going to use this club throughout the entire career of your game. But you're going to find a lot of these holes that if you have a quarterback, especially as it gets leveled up, you're going to use this quarterback all the time. There's a lot of things you can do with these accurate clubs. And one of the things I like about it, especially for newer players, is that it doesn't take very long for you to get this club to level 6 or level 5 and level 6. And once you get it to level 5 and level 6, you're getting 100% accuracy. And it's really important to develop these common clubs that give you 100% accuracy, because it's super easy to make wind adjustments. And one per ring. You can make a mistake. Here's your tee box. Here's the area that you're hitting. You've got a sand trap over here and you've got rough over here. You got a very narrow fairway. Your gold ring on your extra mile fills up that entire fairway. You hit a great to the left, you're in the sand. You hit a great to the right, you're in the rough. You're using your quarterback, your rings are like this. You hit a great to the right, you hit the fairway. You hit a great to the great to the left, you hit the fairway. Great to the right, you hit the fairway, and you're moving forward. Okay, this quarterback is going to put you in play a lot more so that you're in the fairway. And when you're lower level, being in the fairway is more important than distance. The rock. The rock is going to be kind of an interchangeable club with your quarterback, depending on, and the rock is going to be, especially when it's lower levels, it's going to be one of those clubs that you may pull out on certain holes in a tournament. But it may or may not be a club that you play with on a regular basis. And because it's a rare card, you're going to get club cards for it less. And so you're going to end up developing your quarterback. Your quarterback's going to get to level 10 a lot faster than you're going to get your rock to level 8. And the rock, when it gets to level 8, is an awesome club. Awesome. It hits dead center between a maxed out rock and a maxed out extra mile. 100% accurate. Not quite as much topspin as a maxed out quarterback, so it's a little bit less than topspin. So if you're shooting a shot and you're trying to get forward momentum and you want to be accurate, the rock is never going to give you as much distance off the tee with topspin, but it does hit a little bit farther than your quarterback's going to hit. So depending on, there's some spots where if you're not worried about full distance forward and you're looking about more maneuverability, your rock may be the club card. But there can be kind of interchangeable depending on the hole between a rock and a quarterback, but your quarterback is number 1 and your rock is number 2. Now once you start developing your clubs and you start maxing out some of your clubs, this club, when it's maxed out, is one of the best drivers in the game. It's a very good club. Great distance, 100% accurate, good topspin, good backspin, most curl of any driver out there. So there's some shots that you can take with a rock that you can't take with any other club because it has that 96 curl. Great ball guide. Great ball guide right from the get-go. That's one of the cool things about the rock is that if you've got a lower level rock and you've got a lower level QB, sometimes the rock is the better club, depending on and especially in tournaments where you can really kind of pick the clubs that you're taking out there. But the rock is going to be even less so than the big topper. It's going to be one of those clubs that you're not going to use too much when you're lower level, because you've got a quarterback that's going to be higher level. But it is a club that you can work in there. Now when you get up to Tour 6 and Tour 7, these two clubs right here, the Thor's Hammer and the Apocalypse, these two epics are hard to get. Epics are hard to get to begin with. And the Thor's Hammer is really going to become useful when it gets to level 5, especially if you're trying to move up the scale and you're trying to go towards max trophies. If you're trying to be a max trophy player and you're trying to get into Tour 9 and Tour 10 and you're trying to move up that scale, once you get your Thor's Hammer to level 5, it becomes a very good club. Yeah, I mean, it's a good club all the way along, depending on what you're looking for. You got great distance. You got much better accuracy than an extra mile. I mean, it starts off with better accuracy than an extra mile ever gets. And an extra mile, when it's maxed out, is 2.1 per ring, and here you're at 2.0 per ring right off the get-go. Great topspin. Good backspin. Doesn't have a lot of curl, so it's kind of like your extra mile at the beginning. It just doesn't have a lot of curl. It never really develops a ton of curl, but it's got pretty good stuff. So this is a great, more accurate. This is kind of like your you lose a little bit of distance as it goes up the scale from your extra mile. So it starts at 220. Your extra mile starts at 220. So you get 224 at level 3 with a Thor's Hammer. You get 222 at level 3, but this club is going to be hard to get cards for because it's an epic. But if you're going up the scale and you're going up into Tour 7 and Tour 8 and Tour 9, you're going to start getting cards for this club. And when it gets to level 5, it's definitely a contender for it hits great distance, good accuracy at that point, great topspin, great backspin, good curl, great ball guide. And when you get here, don't worry about these prices down here at the bottom on how much it costs to upgrade at each level. When you get to this point, you'll have the cheddar to be able to upgrade it. And if you've upgraded your clubs when you get to about 1 or 2 million, when you get to 2 million, you upgrade your clubs to 1 million, then each time you get a club that can upgrade, it doesn't hurt you that bad because it's just that one club versus having to kind of upgrade all your clubs. Now, I'll stop here for a second. Why do you upgrade all your clubs when you get to 2 million, somewhere in that neighborhood? Because some of these clubs in tournaments that club, you may have that club to a level like with the example of the rock. You may have your rock up to the point where that backspin that's on there can help you. You know, you may get it up to, and it'll get to level 9 really, really quick. This will be one of the first, if not the first club that you max out. And when it gets that backspin, there are some shots in this game where that backspin can help you, and you can drive that par 3 with that rock and a lower level ball, and that backspin is going to help you out. Unless you're going up the scale and you're trying to become a max trophy player, the Thor's Hammer is not going to, like if you're playing rookie and you're playing rookie tournaments, even if you're playing just pro tournaments, the Thor's Hammer may or may not have usefulness to you, but it is a great club. It is a great club. And especially, like I said, when it gets to level 5, it becomes a very good club. Now, the Apocalypse is the club that everybody wants to get in the game, and the deal is that you just never know when you're going to get it. I played the game for a little over 2 years before I got an Apocalypse. And I played a lot of Tour 7 and opened up a lot of chests and got a lot of golden shots and never got an Apocalypse. And finally one day in a free chest, bam, got an Apocalypse. And it starts off with great distance. Much better accuracy when it starts off than an extra mile. Has topspin, has some backspins, got lots of curl. This is the number that we've been looking for with our extra mile while we're trying to get it up, because that curl opens up some shots. It doesn't have, by the time you get an Apocalypse, your extra mile is going to be high enough level that the distance here is not the issue, but it's got very similar distance to an extra mile, but this curl number is the number. So there's a lot of those shots that you're going to shoot that you're here at the tee and here's the pin, and you're trying to get around the groove, so you're laying up out here, and the more curl you can, the closer you can get this shot towards the green. With your extra mile, you've been laying up out here every time, and now all of a sudden you're going to be able to get around that bend a little bit more and go from long iron range to short iron range. This club can change a lot of stuff for you. It really becomes a very useful club when it gets to level 4 because of several things. Number one, it does pick up a little bit of distance, but this number right here is the one. It gets that 66 accuracy, so it starts to become a pretty accurate club at this point. When you get it up into the level 6s and level 7s, this means that you're playing up towards you're playing Tour 10 to Tour 12, and you've really been working on these clubs. This will be one of the last clubs that you max out, but it won't necessarily be the last club that you max out. Some of these club cards I think are just as hard, if not harder, to get cards for than the Apocalypse. If you're playing rookie, though, and when you first start, you don't need to really worry about Thor's Hammer and the Apocalypse. Those are clubs that you can focus on down the road. The Rock will have some usefulness to you when you're lower level and you get it, but it's mainly going to be one of those clubs that might be an option on some tournament holes just because its base distance is farther than the quarterback. I can think of several holes where there's a sand trap right here and we're trying to hit into this fairway area, and with an extra mile we can't get all the way past the sand, and if we did, we'd have a hard time holding ourselves on this fairway area. So with a quarterback, we can bounce on this side to get over the sand and then lay up out here. But the quarterback's red line is a little short of that sand, where the Rock, that little bit of extra distance we can get up here, and with a lower level ball we can easily get over and stop the ball on the other side. So there's a couple times where the Rock will become useful to you, but for the most part, until you can get it up in levels, the quarterback is going to be more of the accurate club that you're looking for. So what you really want in your bag for drivers when you first start playing is the first 4 tours are super important. And that's why it's important to stay in those first 4 tours until you can get some of these clubs developed. Like I'm on my low level account, I'm not leaving that account. I've got it up to level 6. Now my goal is to try and get my QB to level 7 and really develop these lower level clubs at these lower tours. What a lot of people will do when they're in game, and it'll definitely stop here, when they're in game, is they go from, if you're an experienced player and you're playing a secondary account, those guys are going to just run up the scale as fast as they can because they already know how to play. But if you're brand new and you've never played before, which is your first account, the key is don't worry about upgrading all of your clubs when you get club cards for them. I've got 1,628 cards for my Rocket, and I haven't been upgrading it since I got it to level 5. And why did I quit? Because I finally got my QB to level 3. So if you compare the QB, let's go to my accurate bag, compare my QB to my rocket, I've got a little more distance. Now I could pick up some of that distance if I upgraded it, but I've got 100% accuracy, and this rocket's never going to get to 100%. The rocket's going to give me a little more backspin because it is a backspin club. I've got more curl on my quarterback. That gives me more utility. That's the thing about a quarterback. It's a great utility club. Okay, I got awesome ball guide. And so this club is going to be in my accurate bag. I want a club that's got 100% accuracy. Because if you're bringing out a club that you're doing a layup shot, and you want to bring out something accurate so that you can get that layup shot. Because the worst thing that can happen to you is that you're trying to lay up right here, and you end up in the rough over here on a layup. Now you're SOL, because now you're probably not going to be able to get to where you're going. So if you're going to bring a club to lay up, you want to bring the most accurate club in your bag. And what I find funny is that people are doing layup shots all the time, or they're on a hole that they can do a layup shot and they bring out their extra mile. Just strategy in the game. Let your opponent beat themselves. If they want to bring out an extra mile, which isn't very accurate, on a shot that they're trying to do a layup, there's a great chance that they're going to epic fail and they're going to end up in the rough or the sand. And if you can come out there with a QB and just lay it up and get in the spot, you just won. Okay, so when we talk about drivers, rocket, I'm going to play my rocket as my accurate club until I get my QB up to about level 3. And then I'm immediately going to stop upgrading my rocket, save those coins, and start trying to develop my QB up to level 6, up to level 7. And once you get it up to level 6, level 7, you get your extra mile up to about level 6. Now you can now I'm going to start looking at trying to go to Tour 5, because I've developed those clubs in the driver category. And as I go up the scale, these clubs that I've picked right here, the extra mile and the quarterback, those are going to stick with me for a long, long time. Once I get my rocket upgraded, I may occasionally use it on some tournament holes if it's the right situation for a rock versus a quarterback. The Thor's hammer, once I get it, I'm going to use it on some holes, and you really can interchange the Thor's hammer for the extra mile. You're going to lose a little bit of distance, but people start this game off, and it's such a distance thing to start off with that they fall in love with the extra mile and they get married to it. And they're not willing to move off of it. And the deal is I'm not married to any of my clubs. Okay? This is like a freelance thing here. I'm not married to the extra mile. So if the best club to bring out on this hole is a QB, I'm going to bring a QB. If the best club to bring out on this hole is a rock, I'm going to bring out a rock. So be willing to change. So when you do get up to the point where you get this Thor's hammer, if on that particular hole, especially during tournament play where you really have the opportunity to change your clubs in your bag, then you can worry about the Thor's hammer. The Apocalypse is going to take the place of the extra mile on shots where you're trying to get that extra curl. But your main clubs that you're really wanting to focus on in this game, and this is why, in this particular account, I'm still in Tour 4, is because the main two clubs that you really want to get developed in your bag for drivers are these two right here. The Big Topper is going to be a great club for some tournament holes. You'll see some tournament holes where everybody's bringing out a Big Topper. There's one right now, we're playing the Monster Marsh, and one of the par 4s that's out there, if you've got a Big Topper, you can get on in one. It's a super dangerous shot, but you can get on in one. And you can't get on in one with any other club in the bag. I don't care if you had a maxed out Apocalypse. It's not going to be as good as a Big Topper because it doesn't have the top spin. You can't get that bounce that you're trying to get because you don't have that top spin. So you need a Big Topper. There are some holes that I can think of right off the top of my head that the rock is a better club than a QB. But you're going to pretty much leave your rocket behind once you get that QB. And the only time your rocket's going to come into play is when you get it upper developed and you get that backspin. There may be a few par 3, especially if you go to Pro and Expert. And even Masters, there's going to be a few of those par 3s that the rocket is going to help you get on that par 3 because it's got backspin. These two clubs right here are more if you're trying to go up the scale. If I had to pick between the Thor's hammer and the Apocalypse, I would like to get an Apocalypse to level 4. And even if that you don't go any farther beyond level 4, at level 4 the Apocalypse has what you need to take the place of an extra mile on a lot of holes out there where you're trying to get more curl. So if you're brand new to the game, your goal is to get to Tour 4, continue to develop your extra mile, get it up to level 6, get your quarterback up to level 6, possibly level 7, and then you're looking at going to Tour 5 so that you can continue to work on those club cards in your driver category. But if you've got these two drivers in your bag, you'll be set up pretty nicely as you start to go up those tours. All right, next video we'll talk about woods. Thanks for watching. Hey, in the comment section down there, talk about, if you want, put some stuff down there and talk about these drivers, and let's get some discussion going on what you think about the drivers that are out there and what levels that you've got, and let's get the discussion going. Thanks for watching. Maybe.